I'm David Donaldson. I work with IFC InfraVentures, as do a number of people in this room. I'm responsible for Sub-Saharan Africa, so this region, for IFC InfraVentures. By way of introduction, so this is a panel where the eminent CEOs sitting to my left are going to put a bit of granularity onto our discussions and talk about the projects that they're looking at in their pipeline right now. Interest you maybe a little bit, or maybe a little bit of matchmaking, interest you in what those projects look like, and talk about some of the challenges that they see coming up. And just 2 words of introduction. So we were here last year, many of us, certainly from the IFC team. There have been a bunch of changes since last year. Some old familiar faces and some new faces. A bunch of things have been relatively surprising. So I don't think this time last year we would have said oil prices at $30 a barrel. I didn't hear people talking about that. Macroeconomic forecast for Africa, 3.5%. The lowest, it's not been less than 5% since, well, the last decade or more. Azura has actually closed. Now there's a surprise. Maybe not, but it's a fantastic thing. Leicester City won the UK Premiership. Now that is a surprise. On the other hand, a couple of things have stayed the same. Singida, Tanzania, we're still waiting for our PPA, and probably will be next year. But one of the things that I was been struck by during the course of the discussion this morning is there are more project developers sitting around here and active in Africa, particularly in the upstream space, than there were a year ago. This is a significantly changing market. The space is becoming, it's very, very exciting. The space to a certain degree is becoming more competitive. We've been talking about competition and bidding earlier on this morning. Maybe some of my colleagues can touch on that. I think it's very exciting, and I think it bodes well for the future of project development in Africa. So I'm going to introduce one by one our colleagues, and they're going to tell you how excited they are about the projects that they're working on, and then we'll turn over to you guys for some questions. But let me pass it over to the audience and invite some questions. So, grill these guys, ask them. We've heard mentioned Kenya, Nigeria, Namibia, Mozambique is a new expanding market. Grill them on where they see the action, and Raymond and Luis on these game-changing developments that are happening in the solar field. Grill Henry on where exactly he's going to be sending his shock troops. Before we go there, Tom at the back there, I think, I chased you from the panel, but if you would like the first opportunity to speak briefly about, I think you're involved in a hydro development in Zambia, is that correct? Feel free. Oh, you're speaking, right. You were a day early.
I'll get slightly repetitive,
yeah.
I think, if I speak now, but if you'd like me to, I'm very happy to.
Okay, Tom, we'll those of us who are there, we'll give you a chance tomorrow. That sounds fantastic. It's better to be a day early than 5 years late, which is the more common experience, I must admit. So, anybody else? Questions for the panel? Okay, guys, so, oh, wait, we have one. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. One of the key points that has come up is the very nature of renewable energy is a lot of these projects are smaller, right? You have a lot of stuff off grid, you've got coverage, very eloquent, the point of all the people that don't have access, how to scale. How do you guys attack the problem of identifying and working with local partners, developers, that in fact have zero track record, zero equity, but may be essential to achieving scale and local buy-in? Or maybe you don't see it as an issue.
That's a great question, Barbara. So Henry's putting his hand up. Shall we let him go first? Henry, go ahead.
That's a great question, Barbara, because that's so often the case is that we're trying to work with a local partner because a local partner brings something to the table. And really the key to that marriage is to understand what the local partner is bringing to the table and what the other partner, whether it's us or somebody else, is bringing to the table. And both sides recognizing, what that is and how this goes forward. There's a huge education process with local partners in the meantime because, very few of them, unless they're very experienced, in which case they may or may not need you, or as they wouldn't need a company like Global, they need more of a financier as a partner. This whole idea of project financing just drives them nuts. And I know there was a lot of debate about this earlier on. I would just say it's an absolute must in our industry. Companies that deviated for that have failed miserably, whether or not you're a platform or something else, because it becomes too easy to cut corners and it becomes too easy to decide that you've somehow became brilliant overnight and you've figured everything out. And I love having a bank with me when my off-taker is defaulting. Right now, my off-taker is defaulting badly in Tanzania, and I'm standing there by myself with nobody banging on his door. So I'm going to have to turn off the plant, and DAR very may well go into the dark. But that's the only way I'm going to get paid, and that's not the right way to do it.
Great, Henry, thanks. I've got two people winking at me, Raymond first of all, and then Johan. Thanks.
What I didn't say in my introduction is that Scatec Solar has an integrated business model. So we have been doing development. We know what it takes to develop. We do construction management. We do the O&M, and we remain as investors for the next 20 to 25 years. And of course, if you have detailed knowledge of all these elements, then I think it's quite helpful when you're trying to identify who you should cooperate with in terms of partnerships. Very early, when we are looking at an opportunity, we just have to imagine what the end game is going to be. So, actually putting all the different elements into your financial models, knowing exactly what it takes to be able to close the various elements is essential. I mentioned this before, but it is actually possible to develop and finance and build a project very fast. Gigawatt had developed a project in Rwanda. They invited us in November, I think 2 years ago now, is it? We put the financing package together in 4.5 months. We built it in 3, and it was opened by our Prime Minister, 9 months after we were introduced to the project. So this is possible. Now, with the integrated in a business model, you are able to remove some of the friction losses that you have in between the various stakeholders. By having holistic and a full understanding of what you need to succeed. And I think that is the reason why we have been very successful. I also have to say that I've given up a few of the countries. I gave up Namibia. We were there for 3 years. The government didn't seem to be able to actually move forward in a proper way. We spent $1 million or $2 there to position ourselves because we thought we saw the needs. And the needs are there. But they have an inability to run a professional program. Of course, you have to do that to be able to succeed. We have pulled out of several countries and moved into others. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, you've got to make hard decisions sometimes as a project developer and turn your back on large sums of money. Johan, Mozambique, special environment for local partners.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Margaret said, there's another dimension in a place like Mozambique. It is a level of economic development. If you're in a country that's had 100 years or 200 years of capitalist system, they understand the free market principle. It's much easier to bring local developers into the project. But if you're in a country that's had a different history, which is only now growing into the realm of free market system, it's much tougher to make a distinction between partners that's real contributors to the project and partners with a political background. And in our case, we had to go through the loops with MIGA, with Standard Bank, with the IFC. So we had to ensure from day one that we've got project developers that can first of all contribute to the project, but it's not politically exposed. And we're sitting in a situation right now where 2 months ago, our customer was late in payment. And I didn't resolve the problem, the local partners resolved it. And that's the type of partners you need to choose.
Yeah, no, exactly. Luis, Jose Angel, Jose Angel, I know you have strong views on the involvement of people from the country you're operating in.
We are operating in 7 countries in Africa, but DRC is the most old country that we have from 1972. So I spoke before about the frustrating business of develop something and to put together a huge amount of liquidity in the market, but they are not good projects, they are not bankable projects. I think that the role of developers is to make the projects bankable. And one of the international financial institutions, in my opinion, will shift the paradigm, and I think that you are doing, is not to put more money in the market because there are money. Lack of money is not the problem, but put credibility. Credibility in the projects, credibility in off-takers. And that is the more difficult thing. There are huge amount of capitals, but these capitals are afraid of risk Africa. How we can mitigate the perception of the market of risk, of this risk, Africa risk. I think that this perception of risk is exaggerated in the financial market. Is due that lack of knowledge of the market about the Africa. But it's true also that there are a long way to work in increase the credibility of utilities, governments, off-takers, even the people. But there are thousands or millions of people that can pay electricity with very high rates, and they have not an economic problem, they have a financial problem. They are solvents, but they are not bankables. To provide bankability, credibility, must be our aim. And I think that IFC is in the good path to get this different approach. Imagine that the total amount of the World Bank in the world is 60 billions. Only 2.8 billions are for the MIGA. And I believe that these 2.8 billions of dollars can raise more money from the private market than the 60 billions of money that the World Bank are injected in the market. So warranties can raise a lot of more money, a lot of more private capital than loans or grants. Poor people don't need loans or grants, need credibility, need warranties. And I hope that in the future, these 60 billions of money will become 60 billions of warranties. And you will have, I hope, the first trillion invest in the power sector in Africa. Because we are speaking about trillions. And that is the need, a crying need of trillions of invest in Africa. And they are bankable off-takers, but we need to give them, with our work, with our talent, with your talent, with your guarantees, the bankability that they deserve.
Thanks, Jose Angel. So yes, indeed, the market, the potential market is huge. Luis, on the subject of local partners, we have some common experience there, but do you have some observations to make?
Yeah, basically, to develop a project or to have a project to reach financial close, you can do 2 things. You can develop the project from scratch, or you can reach, or you can acquire a project that is at an advanced stage. Okay, there are two options. Okay, if you want to do the first option, this is our approach. We develop the projects ourselves from scratch as the way to guarantee a competitive solar project. Okay, as I said, it's very easy to develop a project, but it's not so easy to develop a good project in a good place, no problems with the site, the land, interconnection, no way, you know, no transmission line, etc. You have to do it yourself, and for that, you need to become the local developer. Okay, so you need to open an office in the country. You need to have your own people in the country to develop a project. The local partner is key, but it is not key for the day-to-day development of the project. Okay, one of the things that for us it's key when we start a project is to have a very significant local partner, but we take care of the development of the project.
Very good. Okay, my elbow was grabbed. I think we have 150 years of experience, I think, more or less, sitting at the table here. They've given us an hour of their time. We better let them get back to developing those projects. So maybe a round of applause for our contributors. Thanks very much indeed.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.